Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hogue, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
I'm AJ Hogue, the author of Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. Father of the Effortless English system. I train you, I teach you. You speak English fluently. You speak English powerfully. You speak English confidently. You speak English effortlessly. When you commit to my VIP program, you commit, you do not quit. You commit at effortlessenglishclub.com, effortlessenglishclub.com. And by the way, finally, VIP members, next week, you will get a discount code for my business English course. So watch your email. Watch your email, VIP members. You will get that discount code. You'll get a very nice discount for my business English course, which is now available. VIP members. Check your email next week. Watch it carefully. It's coming. Today, Your Money or Your Life, Chapter 3, continuing with our book club finally. We're back at our normal time today. And we're doing the book club. Continuing with the book, Your Money or Your Life. Learning how to be financially free. Financial freedom, financial independence. It's a simple but very effective program that I used myself, and I did achieve the goal. Fernanda, good to see you. Nice video you did yesterday. Good to see a lot of our familiar faces. Platforma, Paulika. Just going to read some of the names of you guys. Nasser, of course. All right, so as usual, why don't we just jump right in? Yeah, looks like most of the viewers are here live on YouTube. So let's jump into our chapter 3. I'll go through it. It's a simple chapter. It's like this is not really a complex book, okay? It's not complex, right? Meaning it's not complicated. It's a fairly simple system that they take each chapter. They teach you a little part of the system, and the system's designed to get you to think about money differently and to notice exactly how you are spending your money, and to think clearly about your goal of being free, and then how to achieve it. So, and it's a simple system, step by step, and going on to the next step today. Lisa, good to see you too, and Sriracha as well as always. Lena, lots of our familiar names. Thank you so much for joining. Always have great comments, and just love you guys. Okay, let's just jump in. Here we go. Chapter 3. Like I said, this is a simple chapter. I just want to remind you that chapter 2, you're tracking your expenses, right? Last chapter, we learned you have to track, meaning you record, you write down, or, if you have online banking or something, that's very helpful. It'll help a lot, but except for cash. So with cash, you have to just use, write it down. Anytime you spend cash for anything, coffee, gum, anything, you write it down, you track it, and they recommend in chapter 2, you do this for 1 full month. So now you have 1 month of spending everything, every little bit. And now what do you do when you have all that? Of course, next we have to analyze it. Next, you want to analyze your spending, right? You're going to organize it. This is kind of a common budgeting thing, but they have a specific way they want you to do it. So you have to decide, where is it all going? Where is your money going? A lot of people spend a good amount of money. They're not really aware of how they're spending, they're not aware how much money they're spending in some areas. They're just not conscious. So this is what this is about. And they make a point here. They say, don't worry, relax. This program is not about budgeting. So this means that they don't want you to feel pain. It's not like a diet. If you spend money badly sometimes, don't get stressed about it. Okay, so they don't want you to get stressed. They want you to be They means the writers of the book. The writers want you to be just aware. This is the next step, being completely aware of every little amount of money you spend. Right? And they make here's on this page, they say, all you have to do is be conscious. It's about conscious. It's really a kind of like financial meditation, the way they describe it, right? Because that's what that's what you do in meditation. So in really basic meditation, like your Vipassana meditation or breathing meditation, you're aware of what's happening, right? You notice you're breathing in, you notice you're breathing out, for example. And then you'll have thoughts or emotions will come into your mind, right? You'll have a thought, oh, I'm tired. I want to eat some food, whatever. Any thought pops in your head. And what you do when you meditate, you don't judge it, right? You don't try to push it away. No, I can't think. My mind must be clear. That's not good because you actually make your mind more upset. And you don't continue to try to think about the thought. You just let it come. You notice it. You see this thought, and then you let it go. You let it come. You let it go. No judging, no grabbing it, no pushing it away. This is called equanimity, is the word in English. Equanimity means you see it in a calm and balanced way. So they're encouraging you to be the same about your money when you are analyzing your spending, right? At the end of the month, you go and you look at all of your spending from last month. And they encourage you, don't get upset about it. Don't get nervous about it. Don't get stressed about it. Just notice, just like meditation. Really kind of like without emotion. Okay, let's keep going in the chapter here. Okay, now the next thing you do is you want to organize. This will help you understand your spending better. So you have to create categories, right? Because if you just have a huge list of things you bought, like if you just look at your bank account or whatever, where you wrote down, it's kind of hard to understand what's happening, right? There's too much information. So what you want to do is you create categories of spending. And the writers encourage you that you create your own categories, right? So don't just use someone else's categories. You decide, like, what are the important categories, the areas in your life where you're spending money. And they give some common examples. So, for example, food. We all eat, so you're probably spending money on food. That's probably at least one big category, food. Transportation, that's probably one category. If you have a car, if you take a bus, if you just walk, then you don't need to worry about that one. Shelter, right? Where you live. How much do you pay in rent or your house loan or whatever, right? Clothing, health, entertainment. These are kind of the big common categories. So create these categories. And what you'll do then, of course, is then you go and you look at your spending for the month. You look at every time you spent money and you put that spending in one category, right? So you bought a coffee, for example, one day. Let's say today you bought coffee or yesterday, whatever. So you say, okay, coffee, that's the category of food, right? And then you paid your rent. That's the category of shelter or accommodation, right? You bought a bus ticket. That's the category of transportation. So you put everything, every penny, every amount, whatever your money is in your country, you put into a category, a big category. That's the next step. Now, you don't stop there. That's not enough still. That still is too general for most people. You still will not get enough good information about your spending with just these huge categories. So then what you do next, you create, they call them subcategories. So it means inside of each big category, you create smaller ones. For example, in the food category, food is a really big one. So you want to get a better idea, like how are you spending your food money, your food budget? So you might have inside the food category, you might have a subcategory. One might be groceries, eating at home, right? Cooking at home, food you make at home. You might have another category for restaurants, eating out. You also might have some subcategories, smaller categories, so you can see which food expense is connected to your personal life and which ones are about work, right? So you might have, eating out personal, and you might eating out, restaurants at work, right? Like at lunch, for example. And this will give you an even clearer and more specific idea, information about exactly how and where you are spending your money, right? So you can get very specific, and you do this, you might have snacks. That might be another one. So you have meals, right? Eating at home, meals. Eating at home, snacks. Eating at restaurants, personal. Eating at restaurants for work, right? And you decide, you create the categories. So you can create more and more. And then what do? You do this for all of the big categories. So again, in clothing, let's say you're buying clothing. Well, maybe you have clothing for sports. Maybe you have casual clothing. Maybe you have clothing for work. Maybe you buy clothing just like you're just shopping, you're bored. That might be a category, right? So you decide you have one subcategory of just shoes, pants, shirts, right? Okay? You decide, it's up to you, but you create a lot of these little subcategories so that you get a more clear idea of where is all your money going every month. And again, you do the same with transportation. You do the same with all the big categories. Then, quite obviously, what do? The next step is inside each category, inside each subcategory, small category, you add up the total for the month. Right? So then at the end, you have a list where you can see, I spent this much on food. And then inside food, you can see, I spent this much on groceries at home. I spent this much for restaurants, personal. I spent this much for restaurants from my job. I spent this much on snacks and junk food, right? And then you get a very clear idea of the exact amount you spent in each of these little categories. And you do this in all areas of your life. And now you have a very, very clear idea, where is your money going exactly every month. Finally, a very important step. As we talked about in the earlier chapters, when you finally have that number, the exact amount you spent in each area, you need to change that amount to time. Remember, life energy. We did this in the last chapter, where you decided what is your hourly rate, right? How much do you really make per hour from your job or whatever, your career? Well, now you take that number, whatever your real hourly rate is, and divide it into each category, right? So if you make $10 an hour, you spend $100 on snack food, that equals 10 hours. That's 10 hours of work, right? It means that you had to work 10 hours to buy that junk food. That junk food cost you 10 hours of your life. So this is a very important part of this program in this book, is that you measure everything in hours, right? The hours of your life. You're measuring it in time, not just money, right? If you see $100, right? I spent $100 on junk food. You think, well, that's not so much. But if you change it and and it's 10 hours, not $100, it's not measured in money. You change it to time and you realize I had to work 10 hours. That's 10 hours, maybe at a job I don't like, to buy junk food. Then you can really decide, was it worth it? Is that a good trade for you? The the 10 hours of work to get that food or to get whatever you bought, right? This is where you can make better decisions. This is a very important part of this book and the system is that you then, when you look at each area you're spending money and you decide, well, I had to work 7 hours to get that. Was it worth it? Even your house or your apartment. Like maybe you look and you say, oh, I had to work 100 hours to pay for my apartment last month. 100 hours of work just to pay my rent. Is that worth it? Right? Is that a good trade? Do I think that's worth it to work 100 hours just for that apartment? Maybe the answer is yes, but maybe it's no. And if it's no, then you'll start thinking of, well, how can I reduce that amount, right? How can I cut that so that it's a good trade? You're trading your life, you're trading your time and your life energy for all of these things that you're buying. So you want to compare it, right? You want to look at it in your hours of your life. Is it worth it? Are you getting enough for those hours? Right? Or like they mention here, like if you buy something, let's say you bought some magazines and you had to spend, this was kind of a high example, but someone who spent 14 hours to buy these magazines. And they ask, did you get 14 hours of pleasure from the magazines? Or maybe you bought, a new phone. Did it give you all those hours of pleasure? Is it a good deal? Right? It says, so convert the dollars spent in each subcategory into hours of life energy. So everything must be measured by hours of life energy. And really, that's it. That's the chapter. At the end of the chapter, you'll see a checklist. This just gives you some examples, some ideas for subcategories. The small, like they have food, and then they have a lot of examples of different categories inside of food. That you don't have to use them all. You decide, and you can create other ones instead, right? And they have the same thing for, shelter and house and clothes and everything. So they're just showing you that you can be very, very specific, because sometimes this can help. Like if maybe you notice like, you might notice that I seem to spend a lot on clothes, but I don't really have a lot of new clothes. Like, am I really spending so much on clothes? But if you create the small categories, maybe you realize actually shoes. It's not actually all clothes. What you're really spending a lot of money or a lot of time, right, is you're just spending a huge amount on shoes. And this can help you, again, get very clear when you realize, I'm not really buying shirts. I'm not buying pants. I'm not buying a lot of other stuff. For some reason, I'm constantly buying shoes and spending a lot on shoes. And of course, this helps you make better decisions. Then you ask, do I really need all those shoes? I had to, work, 40 hours just to pay for those shoes this year. Is that worth it? Are these shoes giving me enough happiness to work 40 hours, right, to get them? It's that kind of stuff. It changes your thinking. That's what this book is about. This book is about being conscious, right, really noticing what you're doing. And the second thing about this book is changing your thinking about spending, changing your thinking about how you spend money, right? And so you're making better decisions. You're deciding, okay, maybe you want to buy something new, like you think I'll buy a new car. And then you look at the price of the car, let's say $20,000, and then you divide it by, your hourly rate. Let's just say $10, makes it easy. So then you realize, I have to work 2,000 hours to buy that car. That's 2,000 hours of my life to get that car. Is it worth it? Will that car give me so much happiness that it's worth 2,000 hours of working to get it? Maybe yes and maybe no, but at least you can think more clearly. You understand exactly the cost. You understand the real cost of the car. You understand the real cost of everything you buy. It's not just some money number like in dollars or rubles or something. It's time of your life that you have to work to pay for it. And then you can really decide, well, what's worth more, my time or that thing? So that's all, guys. That's really it. Like I said, it's a simple idea, but this is powerful. I really encourage you to do these. I know you're listening to the book club. That's great. And some of you are reading the book, which is even better. But best of all is do all of this. Do it. Do all of these things. Make these your new habits with money, because this will help you become financially free. As I said, I did this myself, and it did help me become financially free. This book influenced me a lot and helped me succeed in that area. It will. But you have to do it. It's not enough just to read about it. It's not enough to think about it. You have to start doing exactly what they're saying. Tracking every penny, right? Everything you spend. Put it into categories. Change the amount to hours. And then you start thinking differently as you spend money. And this will change how you spend money. For most people, it means you will spend much less money. Means you will save more money. Means you will become more free faster. All right, so into the questions and comments. Christy says, why do we have to be in so detail? Are there apps that can do this? Maybe. I don't know. There might be apps. But you have to do detail because if you don't do detail, then you miss a lot of your spending. For example, people waste a lot of money on small things, but they buy lots of small things. So if you don't track every penny, you can actually miss where a lot of your money is going. Like people who go to Starbucks and you spend about $4 a day on Starbucks. If you don't count that, well, $4 a day, that's $120 in a month. That's significant. You need to write that down. Right? So all these little things can add up to quite a lot. This is the problem. A lot of people are wasting money on just a lot of little things. One of them doesn't seem that big, so easy to ignore. The problem is you're buying lots and lots of these little things, so you're actually wasting large amounts of money. So yes, you have to track everything. Is there an app? Maybe. I don't know. But if not, just write it down. Okay, and now a follow-up point about this. Dalal says, my inspiration only comes when I drink coffee in coffee shops. Well, it's fine. I'm kind of the same. But so again, it's not a judgment. You decide, right? You decide. So maybe you spend $4 on Starbucks and you say, well, that's 30 minutes of work. I have to work 30 minutes to pay for that coffee. And maybe you decide, well, okay, it's worth it. It's worth it for me. Like it's expensive or it's not expensive, whatever. But you decide that I do get 30 minutes, more than 30 minutes of pleasure from it. It does help me. I get good inspiration for some reason. I like it as a work environment. And you decide that, yes, you will continue to spend that. That's fine too, right? There's no judgment. No one's telling you. You decide every expense, every category, you decide. So maybe you see a category like coffee and you say, yeah, I that's fine. I will continue to spend that. Or you see a category of shoes and you decide, yes, I'll continue spending that on shoes. You decide. But many times we'll look and we'll see areas where we will realize I don't need to spend so much on that. For me, the big one was housing. I realized I don't get much pleasure from my housing. I just want a place that's safe and clean to sleep. That's all I want. So I don't want to spend huge number of hours working just to pay for some place to sleep. For me, it doesn't make sense. Other people are more like, they like being at home and all that. So it's a little different. So again, it's just like effortless English, right? It's just like effortless English where you're the boss, right? Just like in effortless English, you're the boss of your own learning. You decide. Well, in this, you're the boss of your own money, right? They're just helping you become more clear. The book is helping you become more clear about how you're spending money and what the real cost is. And then you are always the master. No one else is deciding, you only. Deepak Taid says, is there work stressful with no... Oh, there is work that's stressful with no meaning, but you make money. On the other hand, there is meaningful work with less money. Which should you do? Well, I don't know. You have to decide yourself if it's worth it, right? I can tell you my answer. My answer is I always chose less money and more meaning, or just more enjoyable, even if it's not meaningful. If I had a job I didn't like, I quit. It doesn't matter how much money it was making. One second, I got to get rid of this guy. One second, guys. Just a second. Oh, you have to decide yourself if it's worth it, right? I can tell you my answer. Okay. My answer is I always chose less. And okay, someone just mentioned an app. Oh, here it is. Blue Coins. Adam ZR. Thank you, Adam. Says Blue Coins, BLU, so coins. It's a good app for tracking money. There you go. I know there are probably many apps that do this. Okay, so if you really want apps, you want that convenience on your phone. Do like a budgeting, spending tracking apps. But there you go. Blue Coins. Adam just found one. Thank you. Yeah, well, exactly, Bakir, with an excellent comment. This is why you have to track it. This is why this is important with the categories. Bakir says, sometimes you thought you're spending money on certain things, but when you see the statistics, you find you're actually spending money on other things. Exactly. Many times we're not really aware because it's for a whole month. And after, 2 days, 3 days, you forget what you spent. You forget every little thing you spent money on last week or even 2 days ago. Like, I can't remember 2 days ago. What did I buy exactly? If I don't write it down, I don't remember. I can't just right now tell you. And after 1 week or 2 weeks, definitely you forget a lot of stuff. So definitely, I was the same when I did this exercise. And I did it for, many months. That I saw like, oh, I'm spending a lot of money in some areas. Like I didn't realize, but after I did this, I realized at that time in my life, I was spending a huge amount of money on restaurants. Huge. I was young and I didn't like cooking. And I kind of knew I was eating out a lot. I knew that, of course. I'm not stupid. But I thought I was, eating at cheaper places. I just really didn't realize how much I was spending. But when I actually did the budget like this, it was a much bigger number than I expected. And I realized, that's too high. I need to change this. And it took me a while to change it because it was a strong habit. But it did help me doing this. Realize I'm spending a lot of money. So my two big areas at that time in my life were, accommodation, rent, and then spend restaurants. Yeah, well, Nasser says people spend a huge amount of money on stuff that's not worth it. And like an extreme example, cigarettes, alcohol, things like that are actually harmful. Well, junk food, right? And we all do this. We all spend money in areas, most of us, I'll say. But even, like I said, even areas like eating at restaurants at the time when I was younger, when I was trying to become financially free, and I realized, it's not that healthy. It's certainly not worth working all this amount of time and being a slave to my job just so I can eat at these restaurants. They're not that good. I was not eating at Michelin restaurants. I was not a foodie, right? I was just lazy to cook. So it sort of influenced me at the very least to try to eat a little cheaper and try to eat at home a little more. I made small steps in that area, but they still helped. And then accommodation, like I said, the other big one for me, the biggest one for me was rent. When I looked at it, I saw, oh, wow, rent is by far the biggest one. It was a huge one compared to everything else. And I thought about it and I realized this is me personally. I just don't care. I'm happy to be in a tiny little room as long as it's clean and fairly comfortable and safe. That's all I care. I don't need anything bigger. And so I was really focused in on that one. That was the biggest one for me, was accommodation, rent. And I cut that one so low, as many of you know. But, that's me, and you might have a different opinion about that. Thanks. True Flavor gave me a super chat of €5. Thank you. The best advice, AJ. Life is constant growth. Thank you for that. That's very nice. Thank you. Super chat's like a donation. But anyway, you might be different. Some people, I'm probably very extreme about that in terms of accommodation. I think most people enjoy their home a little more than I do, in terms of they like to have a nice little comfortable home, and some people really like it. Other people are more into cars, right? I also don't care about that. So it just depends on what you like to do. So again, there's not a right answer, there's not a wrong answer, but the key is to be clear about it. Paulika, again, I usually spend a fair amount of money for books. Do you think I should cut it? Yeah, I do also. Again, should. No, I'm not going to give that advice to you guys, because it's your decision, right? But it can help you problem solve a bit, right? So instead of the idea of should I cut books, like I don't, but if your budget's tight and you're looking for ways to save money, maybe you ask yourself, can I get some of these books at a library where they're free? I mean, do I need to? Because, you probably, like me, you probably don't keep every book you buy, right? Physical book, like paper book, right? Some books are books you want to keep for a long time, maybe your whole life. And other books, you read them and then get rid of them, right? As soon as you're finished, you're done. You read the story, that's it, you're finished. So especially those kinds of books where you're just reading them and get rid of them, yeah, maybe it's not a good thing to buy. Maybe you should just try to find them at libraries, at least some of them. So you could maybe reduce the spending by going to libraries, or doing ebooks instead of paper books. It's another way you can save some money, right? So so it's more about the thought process. Asking yourself, if you can look at, first of all, books. First, you ask yourself, is it worth it? Is this a good expense? And I can't answer that question. Only you can answer that. But let's say if it's me, I would say, yeah, it's a good expense. I don't want to stop reading books. I don't want to reduce my number of books. In fact, maybe I want to increase. All right. Then I say, well, but can I still read all the books I want, but spend less money? And probably the answer is yes. It means maybe I can find at least a few at a library. Maybe I can find some as used books where they're really cheap. Maybe I can do some only as ebooks, because I don't really care. I'm not trying to keep them. And the only ones I'm going to really buy, like a nice book, is something I plan to keep for a long time. So that's the thinking, okay? So yeah, I'm not going to tell you what to spend money on. You have to decide. Yeah, like Jarmila, here's another example. Like me, I spend a lot of money buying coffee from drinks dispensers. I've decided making it at home to save money. Yeah, I'm trying to do this myself now. So I drink coffee, but I still do go out and get coffee sometimes, but not so much, especially since my babies have come. And instead, more and more, I'm trying to make it at home and maybe just take it with me somewhere. It saves a huge amount of money. I mean, percentage-wise, it saves a decent amount of money. Thank you, Glauber. Glauber says he likes the book. Thank you for presenting such a powerful book. You are welcome. Glauber Cardoso. Kid Magician, control the cash flow, isn't it? That's exactly what this is about. Controlling your cash flow. It's first about understanding your cash flow in a very specific way, in detail, in a very small details, understanding it as cash, understanding it as time. We could maybe call it your time flow. And then, of course, getting control of it is the next step. Javad's recommending another book called The Compound Effect. Is also a good book. I'll check it out. Yeah, like Christy says, I remember when I was young and stupid. I couldn't cook. I was proud of that and always eating out. Yes, me too. Me too. I still like eating out sometimes, but yeah, thank God my wife is good at cooking, so we eat out. We eat at home now, mostly. Okay, so asking for a personal example, Sukrat. AJ, what do you spend your money on? And what is that thing you get pleasure from spending your income on? Well, it's different now than it was like when I was doing this book, when I was not financially free. As I said, it was things like the big ones were restaurants and rent were the two big ones. I think my car was another big one. Now it's different. Now I don't have a car. Our rent is really cheap. What do I spend money on? Travel. Travel's the big one, actually. In terms of what's our big expense now, the biggest one is travel, by far. Because I live in Japan. When we travel, we often go very far. So we travel all the way to America. It was just my wife and I. It's going to get more now because now we have 2 children, so that's 4 plane tickets, right? Yeah, and we like to go and travel. We'll travel to go on vacation sometimes. I go to Hawaii or something, or around Japan. So travel's the big one for us, but it's one that I like, and I'm financially free now, so I'm not too stressed about it. We still save a lot of money every month. So if we were tight, then we would have to look at that expense and maybe change something. But since we're not, it's fine. So that's the one I like. That's where I spend the largest amount, and I enjoy it. Yeah, like motion is exactly right. Eating out at restaurants is a double expense. You pay more for unhealthy foods, and later you pay with your medication. Well, that's exactly right, and that's sort of, I came to realize that myself too. You're exactly right about that. You pay with your health and you pay money. So it is bad, with a few exceptions, right? You can find occasionally a healthy restaurant, but it's not easy. You can always make something at home that's more healthy because you control all the ingredients. So if you really care about it, you can cook healthier at home. Yeah, like Douglas says, in Brazil, I worked easy jobs. I didn't track my spending, but here in Japan, I have to track that because I work in a hard, tiring job. Yeah, when you work in a hard, tiring job, it makes you more sensitive, maybe. So I was the same. I don't know about hard, but in the past, when I hated my jobs, this idea of looking at the time cost, this was very powerful for me because every time I looked at what I was spending and I changed it to hours, and I thought, oh, that's 2 hours at that job I hate. Is it worth it? And many times it was like, no, it's not worth it. This helped me to make big, big cuts to my spending because I did not like working jobs. So looking at all my expenses in hours, how many hours I had to work, that helped me a lot. I made to make some better decisions. Hattori Hanzo. Hattori Hanzo is on the chat. Either a Japanese, like old samurai fan or a Kill Bill fan. I'm not sure which one. But anyway, let's see. How many thanks, AJ? Great job. Keep it up. I honestly believe you're one of the best North American English teachers out there. You've been my inspiration so far. Thank you. Well, thank you, Hattori Hanzo. From Moscow. Yeah, great. So Lisa's confirming this system. From the day I started working, I had such a list each month with fixed and unexpected cost. I also planned savings. I was never in debt. I still have my list, although I do not need it anymore. Exactly. And, all good businesses do this. We all know this. All good businesses track their spending, every penny, every dollar, every ruble, every euro, whatever, every yen. They track everything. Well, you're just basically being like a good business, right? Businesses do this too. They divide everything into categories and subcategories, and they analyze their spending in very small detail. So another way to think of this, especially if you're a Kiyosaki fan, is that this is a way of tracking and analyzing your spending the way a business person would. It means you're using business methods with your own personal spending. Saludos desde Barranquilla, Colombia. Thank you. Here's an interesting question. Have you ever been scolded by your parents for more money expenses in your childhood? I don't think so. Not really. I wasn't a huge spender. Not really. In fact, what's maybe interesting is I do remember very clearly arguing with my parents about money, but kind of the opposite what you think, right? Like most kids, you think they're spending too much and the parents are arguing, spend less. But so kind of I remember having arguments with my parents, telling them that when I got older, when I was an adult, that I did not need much money, that I did not need to make a lot of money. Like my parents, they're, baby boomers. They come from that generation. So they thought, oh, you have to go to college and get a job at a big company and make a lot of money. So they're kind of constantly pushing that idea. And I would fight against it and say, I don't need a lot of money. I can live in a super cheap place. I don't need to make a lot of money. I want to be free. So that's the argument I had with them when I was in high school. It's kind of interesting, kind of the opposite of what you're suggesting, Preeti. And I remained true to that, actually. I did indeed follow that eventually. Yeah, now see, we're just getting these little, you can see how these little solutions you'll start when you start thinking. Like Motion says, taking drinkable water from home is a good way to save money when you go out instead of buying the bottles at the stores. Exactly. And especially when you track this, so this is one that probably a lot of people would not track. They would not write it down. And you don't realize you're paying $2 for water each day. Seems like not much, but that's $60 a month. And if you just took a bottle from home, you just save $60 a month, right? Or, 6 hours or 5 hours or 4 hours of working that you don't have to work now because you brought water from home, because you made coffee at home, right? And you can start finding lots of these little things, but you can also look at the big expenses and ask yourself, can I cut this? How much are you spending on your house or your apartment, on a car if you have a car, on other big things? Can you cut those? Maybe you can. Maybe you can cut them a lot. Okay. Now, yes, Fukden says, good to see you again. Saving money and investing is two different things, right? It is two different, yes. What do you think about the money to live after retirement? In our country, inflation is 5%. We're going to talk about this in this book, so I'm going to wait on that because they talk exactly about this issue of inflation. They will talk about investing. So we're going to save that for a little bit later in the book. So I'm not going to answer it now. But your first general question, saving and investing are different. With saving money, you're just keeping it. It's just extra money and you're keeping it. Investing, you're using that money, that extra money, you're using it trying to make more, right? So you can invest, it might be something very simple, like where you're just getting a little interest each month. You might invest in stocks and bonds. You can invest in a real estate business. You can invest in other businesses, right? You can do all these things. You put your money in somewhere and you're hoping to get more back. That's investing. Savings, you're just holding it. You could put it in a bag in your room if you want to, right? So that's the difference. So saving is the first step, though. You need extra money. Before you invest, you need extra money. I mean, you can borrow money to invest, but it's dangerous. The safe way is you save money first. You have a lot of extra money each month. Now you can use some of that money to invest and try to make even more. You can make money from your money. Emmanuel, good to see you again, too. Do you think being thrifty is bad? No, because I am that kind of person. That's why people always criticize me, saying we have one life and need to live the fullest. Yeah, we have one life and need to live the fullest, so why waste your money on a bunch of bullshit? You have one life to live. Why not be financially free instead of a slave? So, thrifty is good. You just turn it around on them. Here's the issue. What they're saying, really, these people that are criticizing you, they're saying that money equals happiness. That the way to be happy is to spend all your money. That's stupid. It's not true. It's stupid because it's clearly false. Money does not buy happiness. And spending all your money will not make you happier. It will make you stressed. And if you look at most people, they are stressed about money. Money does not make them happier. Money makes them stressed out because they never have enough. And they always have too many bills and too much pressure about money. And they're working and working and working to get more and more and more. So I think I can tell you from my own life that spending less, but being financially free is a happier situation and is much less stressful. So being thrifty is great. I started reading this book. I understand it was written for American people who have everything. No, you're wrong. You don't understand the book then. Okay, just looking for more comments and questions, guys. Give me a second. My parents are watching, but they don't know English. We love you. Well, they will eventually, right? This is not related to our topic, but anyway, Kid Magician says, "Are you a fan of Detective Conan?" I'm a big fan. I am a fan of Detective Conan. Meitante Conan in Japanese. I am. I watched it last night. And Hattori Hanzo is a samurai fan. Yes, excellent. Hattori Hanzo, sorry. Hattori Hanzo. Yeah, well, here's good news. Anastasia Iskakova says, I'm on my way to financial freedom now. Thank you, AJ. I reconsidered my opinion on many things. Yeah, it makes me happy to read things like this. I'll tell you why we're doing this book and why this topic's important to me. Because when I look back on my life, especially when I was young, this area of life probably caused the most unhappiness for me. Maybe one other area, but this is probably number one, where I had the most stress and the most unhappiness in my life because of money and work. Money and work, because I hated working jobs. I hated working for other people. I tried again and again and again and again and again, many, many different jobs, and never was very happy. And I was always stressed about money. So, becoming financially free, it was just such a giant improvement in my life. And so I'd like to share that because maybe, I know all of you aren't the same. Some of you maybe just love your jobs and you're not stressed about money. Good. That's great. Good for you. I'm happy for you. But I also know many of you are stressed about money. I know many of you are like I was, and I just want to share some of the things that work for me, such as Robert Kiyosaki and definitely this book. And when I read comments like this from Anastasia, I'm very happy because I'd love for all of you to achieve the same thing. Those of you who want to. You don't have to, but if you want to, good for you. Sophia says, Korean auntie. I'm from Korea, not north but south. Yeah, who knows? A couple more years, maybe we'll start getting from the north too. I think we're getting close. Okay, Adam Walker. This is tough. This is a tough situation. I'm newly married. I'm working very hard to provide my family, which is, of course, good. Sleeping only 4 to 5 hours. Working for someone else, not myself. I want to. Where can I start? So this is tough, right? It can be tough when you're in a really tough situation like this. You feel like you're trapped a little bit. So I would say, first of all, follow everything in this book, Adam, that where you want to cut your expenses down to nothing. And you're going to have, with your family, you have to talk to your family. I don't know how old your children are, but certainly your wife, and get them to understand why this is important. So you might have to move to a smaller place, a cheaper place. You have to cut your expenses down so you don't have to work so much. You need time so that you can start saving money. You need extra money so you can save. You need time so you have enough energy to do something else, right? To look for better jobs, to get training in other areas, to start your own business. I don't know, whatever you want to do. But if you're just exhausted all the time, it's hard to do anything. So I would recommend cutting your expenses down to almost nothing, right? Super low. Now, I don't mean your children starve. Of course not. You still give your children good food, right? And you want to live in a place that's still safe for them, but you don't need luxury. They don't need luxury. So not luxury. Cut it down like a tiny little apartment. I have 2 children, 2 babies. We live in a super cheap, very, very small apartment in Japan. You could live in a 1-room apartment, all of you. Right? So that's what I would suggest. That's the first step, because you have to free yourself from this slavery. And you got to cut your expenses down low. Then you got some extra money, right? Gives you some relief. Now maybe you get a different job that maybe it pays less, but you feel better. You can sleep more. Or maybe you keep the same job, but reduce your hours. So now, again, you're getting more sleep. You have more energy. You can make better decisions. You might start saving and investing. There's a lot of things you can do, but you have to get free of this situation first. That's my suggestion. Yep, Sophie, I know you want to be unified. I think it's coming for South and North Korea. Little by little, but it's very encouraging. In my whole life, the situation with North Korea is the best it's ever been. So I think it's quite hopeful. Abraham Ali, this is interesting. In my last job, when someone brought his food and water with him, everybody laughed at him. They described him as a little child. Most of them are wasting their money on junk food. Fools laugh at others. Ignore fools. Never, ever worry about the opinion of an idiot. Okay? If you know better, if you know why you're doing something and you know it's a good strategy, why would you care what other people think? It doesn't matter. Who cares what they think? Right? Bringing your own food to work, great idea. It's healthier. It's cheaper. You save money, you get better, healthier food. Win-win. Win-win-win. Right? So all these little things. See, sometimes idiots don't like these things because you're kind of, just by your actions, you're kind of showing them that they're being foolish or they're weak or something. And that's why. Like if you are, in America, you'll see this with people who are very healthy. They eat very healthy, and then some people criticize them. Oh, why don't you just eat some cookies? Come on, right? Well, it's because, but they're fat. The people saying that are fat and unhealthy, right? Never listen to people like that. Never listen to poor people give you advice about money. Don't listen to fat people give you advice about food. It's a bad idea. Yeah, minimalism. Sophia says, while you're living in Japan, it's true these days I'm interested in minimalism. Do you based on minimalism? Yeah, more or less, yes. Some of you have suggested, I can't remember the guy's name, but there are a few people who talk about this. Minimalism, minimal means smaller, less. It's just the idea of living very simply. That's all it is. And we're talking about in terms of material things, right? That's the key thing that people are missing, that especially people who criticize this, is that things don't make you happy. You don't need a lot of things, right? Experiences, people, relationships, learning, wisdom, virtue, all of those are the qualities or the experiences in life that will bring happiness and fulfillment and make your life interesting. Not a bunch of stuff, not the newest iPhone. So the idea of minimalism is that you reduce the amount of things, physical things that you buy. But not only that, on the other side, what does it mean? It means now you have more time, more money for experiences, for spending time with friends and your family, for walking in nature, for going camping, for traveling, on and on. All of these wonderful experiences in life. People are working just to buy plastic stuff, and they're missing all the best experiences because they don't have enough time or money. So that's the point of minimalism, and the point of this book is to be clear about this. That's all. Kid Magician, The Richest Man in Babylon is a great book about money. Yep, I think there are a bunch of them. We'll do more in the future for sure. I'm not sure what our next book will be. I haven't thought about it yet, but Emmanuel, I'm a virtuous person. When I see a poor person in the street begging, I give them something. Why do most people ignore them? Well, Emmanuel, that's a very complicated question, because I can speak for myself. Like in America, I never give them money. Never. Because I know they're drug addicts and alcoholics mostly, because I was a social worker. I worked with those people, and I know the situation. There is a huge amount of welfare already for them, and they don't use it. Why don't they use it? Because they don't want to follow the rules. They want to continue drinking alcohol, continue doing drugs. So I don't give them money because I know exactly where it's going to go. So this is the problem. It's not as simple as we like. It's a nice, your heart is in a good place. And of course, some people are just genuinely poor and they need help. But a lot of, at least I can only talk about the United States. I don't know about your country, but I can say in the United States, the situation is a little bit less clear. You're not really helping them. If you give them money, you're not helping them. You're actually hurting them. You're helping them to hurt themselves, is what you're doing. Now, in your country, maybe it's different. I don't know. Okay, a couple more. We'll see what the time. Oh, yeah. A couple more and then time to go. Yeah, well, like Shankar, this is kind of Shankar's comment here reminds me of Robert Kiyosaki quote. So Shankar says, what we earn, the money we earn does not matter. What we save matters. Right. Exactly. This is what Robert Kiyosaki, he says, it's not, what you earn is not important. It's what you keep. Right. Which is exactly what Shankar's saying here. That's exactly right. If you make $1 million a month, does that mean you're free financially or rich? Maybe. But what if you spend $2 million a month? That means every month you're minus 1 million. You're going into debt. And actually, no, you're not financially free at all. The opposite, right? You're making yourself a huge financial slave and you're in big trouble. So this is the problem. Too many people just look at that one number. They only look at the amount people are making. And a lot of people are fooled by this because it's appearance. So you'll see somebody makes $100,000 a year, for example, in America, which is a decent amount. And they have a very nice car. They have a nice big house. So everyone thinks, oh, they're rich. They have so much money. But if you look at the situation, really look at it, they're spending too much. They actually are minus, right? They owe huge amounts of money. They owe a lot of money. The house is too big. The house is too expensive for them. The car or the cars are too expensive. And they're spending lots of money on many other things. They have credit card debt. They owe a lot of money for their house. Maybe their kids go to college, to expensive private schools. They owe money for that. They're actually in terrible financial shape. But on the surface, on the outside, oh, they look like they're rich. But not exactly, right? So this is what Kiyosaki always says. He always says that you really don't know unless you can look at someone's financial statements, unless you know the details. Because you might see two people on the outside, they look similar. One might be saving and investing a huge amount of money, and they really are quite rich and doing very well. And the other person, they appear similar, but they're in debt. They owe a lot of money, huge financial stress, many financial problems, right? So you have to be careful. Don't worry about other people is really the best advice. It doesn't matter. Who cares? If someone else has more money than you or less money than you, leave them alone. Okay? It's not your business. Focus on yourself. Yeah, Shankar says has read Rich Dad Poor Dad, so I'm not surprised. We did that book already. Sriracha says, I believe English language will bring many good things to me, especially money. And it can in some situations. You certainly, in some places, in some areas, some businesses, you certainly can use English for business, like tourism, for example. So for sure, it can be a skill that will help you financially. It can. All right. Ibrahim Ali says, Tony Robbins wrote 2 books about money, Unshakable and Money Master the Game. What's your opinion about his books? I confused the 2 of them. I read both. The first one I liked a lot. It's about investing. I think, is that Money Master the Game, I think. The second one, Unshakable, didn't like it so much. I thought there was not much practical advice. I felt like the second one was just kind of like continuing the first book, just adding a little extra information. But the first one is very specific, has some very specific investing advice. I like that the investing advice is very conservative. It's about, being safe. So I thought it was quite good, quite nice. It's a good one. Check it out. Yeah, okay, so Nilanjan Day has a nice, I'm not sure if you're saying this or it's a quote, but anyway, it sounds good. The idle or the foolish can neither earn money nor keep it or save it. It means nothing to them. What is most important is humanity in a person. Well, indeed, and virtues and things like this, yes. We have a lot of Korean people today. That's interesting. Hi, TJ. Small Lucy says, I think having lots of money and having a little money matters. Yeah, but it's how much you keep. It's how you use the money. How, are you a slave to money or are you the master? That kind of thing. It's really what we're talking about. Yes, Adam, exactly right. Adam says, what do you think about feeling free with enough money? That's what this book's about. Enough. That's the central word of the whole book. Enough. It means figuring out, deciding for yourself what is enough. Enough money, enough spending, enough things. You don't need more. Because money puts a lot of pressure on people. Yes, that's right. This is the thing that changed my life. What you're talking about, Adam. I became very satisfied with little, very little. That's why I lived in a car. It's why I lived in a van. It's why I only worked part-time for many years. It's why I lived in super cheap apartments in San Francisco. It's enough. Didn't need more. I became quite happy and comfortable with that. And exactly what Adam's saying, like so much of the financial pressure disappeared. This is before Effortless English. So this is still when I was working, but I didn't have to work much. The last several years before Effortless English, I was only working part-time. Still didn't like my jobs a lot, but it was much better. And that is what this book and the ideas in this book will do for you. Remove all of that financial pressure, or most of it. And you can relax and focus on your life again. That's what's so great. So well said, Adam. That's exactly what I'm trying to communicate. Yeah, like Yosef saying, it's not about money, it's about freedom. That's a quote from me. Right. Exactly. Yeah, simplicity and frugality are enough to live free and happy. Cleefy. Exactly. Yes. And then if you get more, it's just extra. It's just for fun. It's just extra. You don't need it, but you have the extra. Well, great. That's fine. But you don't need it and you don't get used to it. That's the cool thing. Anything extra then is just enjoyable. Andia says, a lot of people think having much money can save your life. Yeah, I know. Well, this is the propaganda we get, right? This is the message we get from all media and lots of other people too, that money will make you happy. And sadly, so many people spend, some people spend their whole life trying to do this, and they and they finally realize at the end that it was a lie. And like Sophia says, this is why a lot of people do it. Spending money to show off your richness, bragging how much you earn is absurd behavior because they feel bad again when their competitive people want to spend more than them. Right, it's never enough. If you worry about other people, you'll never be happy because there will always be someone richer than you. Always. So you'll never feel satisfied. So who cares about other people? Doesn't matter. Someone else has a nice car. I don't care. So what? Good for them. Just be happy for them. If they like their car, that's great. Why would you be jealous? Murkton, I'm going to help you. I think money's power. It's the same for love. If you don't have money, you can't go out and meet someone. Murkton, you need to read 3 books. It's part 1, part 2, and part 3. The name of the books, The Rational Male, M-A-L-E, like man. The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi. Because you're wrong about money and women. You're wrong. And I'm not gonna just say that. I'm gonna give you some hope. Okay? Read those books and you will have no problem with women. And you won't have to spend a lot of money. Good luck to you. Report back in a few months. Let us know how it goes. I think you'll be happy. So I'm not mad. I'm happy for you. Read those books. Yeah, well, again, like Gloria's saying, we can always make more money. We can't make more time. Yes, that's why in this book, they change everything into time. They measure everything in hours. That's exactly right. Just like they said in the I think it's chapter 1 or the introduction. Time is your true wealth. Time is limited. Money's unlimited. You can always make more. But time, you cannot. So to spend the precious hours of your life being unhappy just for money is insane. It's crazy. You have to recognize it's time that is limited. It is time that makes your life, not money. Money's a useful tool like other things, but it's time that is so precious. Very well said. Okay. Oh, thank you, Adam. Adam saying, just another follow-up to Adam. My parents love you. My family and parents love you, although they don't know English a lot. Yesterday I told them you had twin babies. They got happy. Thank you, and Adam, good luck to you. Keep watching and commenting when you have a time. I hope you will get into a really good situation. So I know it's tough right now. I know it's hard. You're working hard. Good for you. Is it right that time is money? Well, that's kind of what we're saying. Not time is money, but to make money requires time. You understand, right? You're converting, you're spending your time to make money. Like for most people, that means a job. Most people, right? How do you make money at a job? Well, you have to. The basic thing is you have to spend your time. You have to go there or do the work, whatever, but it's time. You're trading your time of your life, the precious hours of your life, to get money. So that's what's happening for most people. Now, if you have passive income, you're not doing that. That's why it's so powerful. But it's that takes time to build up. Yeah, like Kid Magician says, don't be jealous about others. If they have a fast car, you have $1 million in your pocket, you can buy a cup of coffee with $1. Well, right. Well, exactly right. So that's right. You just have to realize this. It doesn't matter, right? Because you might look at two people. One person's wearing a nice suit, and they got a super expensive car, and the other person's wearing average clothes, a t-shirt. But you don't know. You have no idea about their real financial situation. You don't know. Because the t-shirt guy might have $5 million in the bank, and the nice suit guy might be in debt and stressed out about money and having to work all the time just to pay loans and debts. You don't know. You don't know. So don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Right? I'd rather be the guy with a t-shirt. For sure. Right. Virgo says, Fight Club quote, do you own your possessions or do your possessions own you? And this actually goes back to a Thoreau quote, Henry David Thoreau. They used it in Fight Club. All right, I'm going to do one more and then I'm going to go. Yeah, so we'll just sum it up here with Igor. Sums it up very nicely. Time is your most expensive commodity. Indeed. So I think we'll end there because that's a nice summary of this chapter. So, making these little categories of where you're spending, seeing how much exactly in dollars or in money are you spending in these areas, and then change that into time. How many hours do you have to work to buy that stuff or those things in each category in your life? And track this for several months. It's a good habit to always track it. But at least until you're financially free, you should track these things. And this is the next step to being free. Next week, we'll do chapter 4. As I said earlier, that we will get into then, this first step, what we're learning in the first chapters is how to get control of your spending, right? Stop spending so much money. You need extra money. If you're going to become free, you need extra. You need to save money. Without saving, it's almost impossible. Okay, so you need that extra money every month. Every month you need extra money. Hopefully a lot of extra money. Then step 2, you use that extra money. You save it and then maybe invest it carefully. And this will bring you financial freedom faster. You might use that extra money to start a business. You might use that extra money to, just to save, to buy stocks. Whatever you want to do. But we'll talk about that in later chapters. But you want to have extra every month. That's the key thing. You have to do this. And you want a lot of extra. Okay. Lots of love to all of you. That's the end of chapter 3. Tomorrow we continue with our wonderful movie, Jerry Maguire. On to part 2 next week. Tomorrow. On to part 2 tomorrow of Jerry Maguire, our movie club. That'll be on Twitch. Follow me on Gab, and I'll announce when I'm going live. Gab.com. Follow me there. I always say when I'm going live. So see you in the movie club tomorrow. Continuing part 2, Jerry Maguire. Show me the money!